Well, good morning and welcome to Barston Lakes. But more importantly, this is the third and final round of the Aero Leisure Cup qualifier. So we've already had two qualifiers, one at England Lakes, sellout, one at Hawkoff Lakes, which was also a sellout. And of course, this is a sellout as well. And what a better, you can't think of a better venue to host this kind of event. For those of you that haven't fished it, the Aero Leisure Cup is basically based around feeder fishing, but with a little bit of a twist, and it all comes back from the Lindome League that we run in the winter time, where you can fish a feeder, you can fish a bomb, you can feed with a catapult, you can feed by hand. And from a feeder angler point of view, that's a great idea because you can keep and spin plates while you're actually fishing a line, feed other lines at the same time. And I think this is why it's so hugely popular, especially on commercials. You can make that noise on your other swims and get fish coming into it. So here today, I've actually drawn a really good peg. I'd say it's the best peg I've ever drawn at Barston Lakes, or on paper anyway. You'd always want to be 16 to 22, and I've drawn peg 19. And very near me, we've also got my teammate Glyn Reynolds on 20. What are you on? 25. Another great area as well. But today is simply about, I want to run through everything that I'm doing regarding my bait preparation. I'm going to run through that. I'm going to talk about what bait I've been using, what hook bait I've been using, and more importantly, just actual swim management. So throughout the video, I'm going to talk about how I'm going to be starting the match, what's going through my head, how I'm going to make those changes to put the extra few fish in my net, and hopefully end up with a great day, a great net of fish and a great day's fishing. Let's see what happens at the end. We've had a lot of cold water coming into this lake recently, like across the country. It's just been floods galore, so I think that's really going to change the venue today. And a lot of people, especially after the international event at the weekend when it fished really well, I don't think it's going to fish that well at all. So I'm going to take it very steady, and that's why I think it will be an interesting day regarding what I'm thinking about and how I'm going to catch my fish. Hopefully my main aim is to get 5 carp. If we get anything more than 5 carp, I'll be happy, but let's see what happens. So let's get everything sorted. There's about 10 minutes left. I need to get my nets in, just fine tune my bait and get fishing. So hopefully see what happens. Right, let's talk about bait. Really nice and simple. I'd say this is my go-to bait regardless of where I go, especially when it comes to method, flatbed method and hybrid work. Confidence is a big thing. And this is why I like to stick to what I believe is the right approach in my head with additives. So I've got a mixture, as you can see, of 3mm green swim stim pellets and also the 2mm swim stim pellets as well. And you can see how it just adds a little, those green flecks in those pellets, I believe, make a big difference. But more importantly, I always prepare my bait the day before, the night before, with complex tea and pellet soak. I like to, even with the brown pellets, the 2mm, as you can see, I like to darken them off so they've got a little tinge of green, as you can see. But I'm a big believer in that complex tea. I think it makes a big difference in my head, especially on these open water venues where you are today, where I am today. I really do believe in myself that helps draw fish to my focal points and my method feeder. And so that's it. Basically, I'm going to be using that in the feeder. I'm going to be using just a medium hybrid feeder to start with. I'm not going to go with a big one at the start. Medium hybrid feeder with 7mm speedy washers, my go-to hook bait as well. I might be changing hook baits throughout the day, but let's see what happens. But nicey to start off with, and steady away, maybe 10-15 minute cast. But when it comes to preparing your pellets, always do them the night before when it comes to that winter time, to give them that time to absorb that moisture, and then you end up with a consistent pellet throughout the whole of the day, rather than what you'll find is if you do them on the bank, especially when that air temperature starts to cool, like what we are now coming into the autumnal time of the year, your pellets will changing consistency as the day progresses. So always do them the night before, and you end up with there's more continuity to your bait if you do them the night before, especially in the winter months. So that's my bait, nice and simple. I've also got some 8mm pellets as well, and I'm going to be pinging them over my, let's say, 25-metre line later on in the day if I feel that is the right approach. Good area here, loads of carp in this area, and that is the line where you can actually turn your swim around, turn your match around from catching 2 or 3 fish to getting a late run of fish late on, which can often win the match because the fish are so used to feeding on that line where the pellets go in. So that is literally pinging 2 or 3 pellets at a time, not bladdering it like what you do in the summertime. Water temperature's cool now. With a catapult, just pinging over the top and chucking maybe a large method feeder over the top of that. A great focal point for them to home in on. So the noise is getting them into the swim. Method feeders homing them in onto my hook bait. Let's see what happens. Sounds great, and hopefully it'll work, but let's see how the day unfolds. Right, we're 20 minutes in. And it's evident to see, like what I said in the intro, this cold water has definitely had an effect for now, but this is the beauty about this place. All of a sudden the carp can just switch on. As far as my eye can see, I've seen 1 carp caught. Johnny Marshall, 2 downs, just had 1. I've had a little skimmer. I've started at 55 metres. And that's more or less the line where everyone else is fishing. And what I don't want to do is go guns blazing, go further out until I've kind of like got a reading for what's happening. And that's often the case when you do go longer, when you realise what you need to do, that you get a response. But I've also got a baiting rod with me for me to feed this line. That's why I've marked my main line, so I can refer back to the distance where I'm going to be baiting up with a baiting rod, which hopefully might draw some fish in if I need to go down that route. But with how the venue's fishing for now, I ain't got a lot of confidence on that line yet. Great area for carp. There's so much colour in the water. The water temperature must have dropped quite a bit because of the cold water. And I just feel as if it's a plugging away day at the moment. I just don't want to go guns blazing, putting a load of bait out, when the fish might not be feeding as what they have been over the last few weeks on this particular venue. What I do feel I need to do is progress my way out. So I'm fishing to a clip at 55, but like I said, I think I'm going to venture further out, maybe next cast, just go that little bit further. And this is often the case on here, that it's about setting a trap for 1 fish at a time rather than creating a bed of bait. And it takes maybe, I don't know, an hour and a half for you to figure that out. And you can often do your peg more harm by actually just attacking it when it's not the right kind of day. The problem with Barston, which in a way is a good thing, is it's very shallow, so it's so sensitive to the air pressure and the water temperature and the air temperature, all those little elements that, especially during the autumn months, affect this venue in particular so much. And today is a perfect example of that you look across the lake and there is literally 0 signs of fish. There's the odd one coming out, but it's evident to see that they're not in a feeding mode, because this is the area. This is a great area for catching carp, and you'd think by now there'd be at least 2 or 3 people that have had a carp. So let's see what happens. The next half hour is going to be a good guideline on how the venue is going to be fishing, for at least for the first 2.5 hours. Right, so I'm on my skimmer. I'm on my 4th cast now. It's time to make that change. I'm just going to go mark my line again. It's really important to mark your line. You've always got that reference point, especially on these kind of venues where you might get a really powerful fish that you might have to take the clip off, because I've got another mark further down the line. I'm going to go 2 rod lengths further out, just beyond where I've had 4 casts. This is often the case on this venue, that it's not about fishing to a clip, it's about actually just working your way out. So 55 metres, 1 skimmer, 4 casts, nothing special. I need to try and catch my first carp if possible. Just that extra bit of distance, fresh area, unfed area, just on the perimeter of where those feeders are landing, would be all the difference. Well, I've made the decision. I've got to go along. Whatever fish are coming up further out, and with how it's fishing, just 2 carp caught now. 40 minutes in, it's just screaming out for them fish feeding further out. So I haven't clipped up. About 85 metres, I reckon. Not too far, but just beyond everyone else. So I honestly believe that is where they are. Let's see what happens now. So I've marked my line. Although I'm fishing at a distance now, I still want to do it neat. Build up an area at that range. So now I've shot to a 13-foot, just so I can do it properly. And also it enables me to go that bit further out if I need to. It just shows you a 3rd chuck on that long line, and I'm into my first proper carp. So it just goes to show that cold water, no wind, pressure on the lake, has definitely pushed them fish further out. And it's took me 40 minutes to make that decision to go further out. And we're just saying to Dave Wesson, I don't think it's cost me anything, really. I had to give that 55 metre line a go at least for half an hour. Because if it was going to fish well, that would be the distance I'd catch them at. So now like I say, I'm fishing a 13-foot rod. You might get a liner, mate. Oh, it's alright, you won't. Just making everything easier fishing a 13-foot rod. Shot leader, 016 main line, nice thin line. That enables me, if I need to, just to go that bit further out. If I feel that I want to go to 90, 100 metres, I can do with this setup quite easily. And that bite come within 30 seconds. Yeah, nice carp. Oh, you pulled out of it then. Look at that. That's a lucky one. Look at that. Must be my lucky day. Now, a nice carp. I'm not going to lift him up. Let's try and catch his dad. Just a 7mm washter. That is definitely the range where the fish are at, and further I reckon. But if I can catch them at that range, I can do it nice and neat, and build up an area. And this is the beauty about it. If you're not at the area where the fish are, you have to work your way out. But once you find where they are, you can build a bed up. It reminds me very similar to how I fish Worsborough. Choose the right distance and you can actually build a swim up to a clip, because you're in the vicinity where the fish are feeding. And it's amazing, at the start of the match I was expecting 10, 12, 14 carp, and it still might happen. But now my guesstimation has dwindled down to 5, 6 fish. I reckon 5 or 6 carp. If I manage 5 or 6 carp in the first 4 hours, I'm happy, because what will be interesting is what happens in that last hour. Will the fish come onto that line, that pellet line, where I'm going to be loose feeding pellets later on? Will they come onto that line? Will they come to that noise? Or will they stay out at that distance? And this is a problem with this kind of lake. When there's no wind on, the fish back away from movement, whereas when there's a wind on, you can often catch them really short on the pole line. But now we're coming into that winter mode, the fish know this, they back away in that safe zone, that untouched expanse of water. But at least in my head now, I know that I'm fishing the right distance, the right area, the right zone for the carp. What I am going to try though, next cast, is a bunch of maggots, because especially in the winter months, this is deadly. Very buoyant hook bait, so easy for them to suck in, and something a little bit different as well, rather than just fishing a wafter or a washter. So if I don't get a bite in the next 8 minutes, I'm going to chuck with this. Well, we're exactly 2 hours in, and as the match has unfolded, it is so evident to see that it's fishing absolutely rock hard, all down from the amount of water coming in, like we said earlier. So 55 metres I started at, got a little skimmer. I then ventured to 80 metres and got a carp on my third chuck, which was a good sign, to be honest with you. Third casting, carp about £5, 4 or 5 pound. And then no more bites. Then I've had a little skimmer out at blue. And as bizarre as it sounds, I was reeling back my feeder, and now I'd actually ventured out to 92 metres, just gone searching for the odd bite, not had another bite, reeling my feeder back, and I've actually spooked a carp on the surface right where I initially started, which is about 55 metres. So I've picked my 12-foot rod up, chucked it out. I've had no signs on that particular cast, and then after maybe 8 minutes of it being in, it's gone round, and I've just landed one about £7. So that's a good sign. I'm back on this 55 metre line, which I'd say is the line, is the distance that if you're going to catch a weight of fish, it's going to be 55 metres and shorter. So hopefully if I get another bite on this, happy days. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have 2 more casts on this line and then rest it again. You know, I have come with the intentions to bait quite heavily over the top, but it's just not that day. It's a proper winter day. It's, in comparison to how it's been fishing, today is night and day. There's very few fish getting caught from people walking around. Literally very occasional small skimmer, very few carp, and not even, this is like the main area where you catch the carp. There's not even carp showing. So I think if I rest this line and occasionally drop on it, I might get rewarded. And I'm going to do exactly the same on my 30 metre line. Now I'm actually not going to feed it. Rather than feeding pellets on it, I'm just going to chuck a big method on it and cast it out and leave it for 20, 25, 30 minutes, just for one bite. That's all it is today. So I've got 2 carp in my net, got a little skimmer. I think if, all right, what we got here? Got a little skimmer. If I end up with 5 carp, I think that'll be good points. And I've just lifted my line up then, and I've seen a carp bow wave out from the 25 metre line where I've not fed anything. And that's really interesting. So it's evident to see that the carp are just cruising around underneath the surface, no intention of feeding whatsoever. But you just don't know with this place. That last hour they could just switch on. The only negative point to maybe that not happening is the amount of colour in the water and the massive drop in water temperature as well. So let's just see what happens. It's just plug away, feel your way along, fish for one fish at a time. That is literally what the day is going to be. Only a small skimmer, but they all count. They all count. Hello, mate. You cold? You cold, mate? Slip him in the net. Let's have another chuck on that line. But that was interesting. I lifted the line up, and I say I saw a carp bow wave off at 30 metres, and I think if I wouldn't have seen that carp, that as I was reeling back from a long chuck, I wouldn't have chucked out on this line. I was going to chuck out on it sooner or later, but that initially made me think I've got to give it a cast, and I think that's why I caught that fish, really. There might have been 2 or 3 there, and one of them might have followed the feeder down. So let's give it another go. One more cast. And then I'm going to rest it. If I don't get a bite this chuck, I'm going to rest it. I have 2 or 3 more chucks long. And I might even just have a chuck short. Now this got a bit of wind coming this way now, which could actually trigger a few fish getting them into moving. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Well, we're into the 3rd hour now. And I've just managed to hook my 3rd fish. And I tell you what, the way it's fishing, every fish is crucial today. Sun's come up, definitely picked up in temperature. So I've started pinging some 8mm pellets on that 30 metre line. But at the moment, every bite is crucial. And now I'm fishing just short of 100 metres to where maybe I think there's a few more carp because it's quieter water, but also warmer water because the sun's shining now. You might get a liner, mate. is literally plugging away, setting a trap for one fish at a time. The interesting thing is every fish that I've had has come within 2 minutes of the feeder hitting the bottom. I wish I'd have put my shorts on now. Just got to lift my rod up here because I've been told by Craig O'Brien there's a snag on the shore, so I want to keep that fish up. Just seen it on the surface there. And you can tell how little the fish are moving because that took my tip literally a centimetre. I could just tell it was sat there with it in its mouth. Good fish. Oh, welcome. I always want to come up where the sun's shining. He's a feisty one. Not even managed to get his head up yet. Little feisty one. Obviously seen Dave Wesson's face. They're the ones you want. Hopefully a few more of them. And tell them Yorkshire, because I always like to use the same hook bait. Put that back on the hook. Always check the hook. Hook's nice and sharp. Give the bait a spray. With a new Wowzer liquid that we have brought out. Give it that added boost. I'm just doing that because of the amount of colour in the water. Where I'm casting now, I can actually see fish moving. Let's hopefully get another one. I'll say all the bites have come very quick, so they're homing in on that feeder in seconds, and that's why I'm really packing that bait into the feeder to refrain the bait from escaping. so the fish have less choice, and hopefully that gets me a bite quicker. Angler next to me's got one. Things will be picking up now. Sun's coming out. Fish might be on the move. 2:15. Just keep feeding that 30-metre line with the odd pellet. Don't want to make a bed, I just want to make some noise. Two pellets at a time is ample. Right, we've got an hour remaining now. It's 3 o'clock. The wind's dropped, the sun's beautiful, but unfortunately the fishing hasn't improved. And like what I said earlier, when I started to read that the venue was fishing hard, if I had 4 carp with an hour remaining, that I'd be quite happy with that. Well, actually, I've got 5, which in the area where I am, that's mega. Now, I'm still feeding this 30-metre line because I still think there might be a chance of getting just a quick bite on it. Even if it's the last 15 minutes, I might get 1 bite on it. So it's not about creating a bed, it's about making constant noise with 1 and 2 8mm pellets, because the fish are so used to feeding on this line. And then when I do want to go on it, I'm going to fish a big hybrid feeder for them to home in on the big feeder. Now, where I've had the majority of my fish, apart from 1, I've had 1 carp at 55 metres, and I've had all the rest between 90 and 100 metres. But the interesting thing is what I'm having to do is I'm having to rest it. I cannot keep casting, although I'm not having short casts on it. I'm having, let's say, 10, 12, 15-minute casts on it, on this line. I can get away with 2 or 3 casts, and if I don't get a bite, I've got to come off it. And every time I've come off it and chucked back out, I've had a carp, or nearly every time. So it shows how spooky they are. And I've just got to keep going through the motions and rotating. So my next aim now is, if I don't get a bite on this line, on this particular cast, I'm then going to have a chuck on my 55-metre line just to see if I can get one out at blue. Have a chuck on my 30-metre line, see if I get one out at blue. So let's say that's 25 minutes gone by, and then chuck back out on that long line. And that's been the process of the day, really. Resting a line to actually get a bite off it later on. Proper winter fishing, but in the same way, you're having to really think about where you're going to get your next bite from and at what time you're going to get your bite from. Now, as it has been all day, all my carp bites have come within a minute of the feeder hitting the bottom. So it just goes to show that they're homing in on the noise of the feeder hitting the bottom, and they're on the bait straight away. And this cast has been in 10 minutes. I think I might have 1 more cast on this line, but then again, I'm not quite sure, and I've got to give these other 2 lines a go. The clock's ticking, and I just feel as if I need to rest this line now. But on the other side, I just also feel that this is the only line, this distance that I'm fishing now, where I've got a really good chance of getting a bite. So let's bring it in and have a go on this 55-metre line. See what happens. Well, there's literally 5 minutes remaining, and I was hoping to get a late flurry of fish, but it's not happened. I've pulled out of a little carp last chuck, and I mean a little carp, one of these new stocky carp, but just had no bites. Like I said earlier, every bite I've had has been within a minute, so I've literally got 5 minutes to hopefully get 1 more bite. Word has it, Rob Wotton's caught quite well on the other bank, But looking around this area, it's lifeless, and considering actually how warm it is now, it's fished quite hard. And it is evident to see, like what I said earlier, without a shadow of a doubt, this long line has been the only line that I've been able to rely upon getting the odd bite. And I've just had to keep working at it, because, like I said, the bites have come very quick. So one more cast. Let's see what happens, and then it's mostly be the all out. Let's hopefully get a bite in the next minute, 2 minutes. Like I say, this is the little window, that first minute when the feeder hits the surface, makes that noise. Hopefully carp will home in on it very quickly. And rather than sitting there for 10 minutes, not really feeling as if you're going to get a bite, I'd rather make the most of that little short time, that little window of a few minutes left, of creating another reaction that often induces a bite. But it's been a really difficult day, but I've quite enjoyed it in a weird kind of way, because I've had to really think about swapping lines, resting that long line, moving on to my 55 metre line, and often knowing that all the other lines I'm moving on to aren't really going to create a response. I'm not going to get a bite off them. Knowing in the back of my head, by resting that longer line, I might get a bite when I go back out long. The only thing I do different is I've got the bait with me, the spod bait, so to speak. I should have really attacked it at 55 metres, 60 metres, and just kept feeding and feeding and feeding. But when you've got no fish showing around you, and I've not been here for quite a while, it's hard to have that confidence in such a positive approach. And I think that's why Rob's done well, because he's been on the venue, he won the event, won his section every day. He's just so in tune with how the fish need feeding, and that's evident to see with what he's had today. He might have 50, 60, 70 pound, which is mega today. So how long's left? 1.5 minutes left. Let's see what happens. Hopefully the tip goes round now.
Call at me.
39.8, looking at it. Well, the match is just finished, just weighed in. I've had 39.8, which actually is very good in this area. I think 26 pound was best up to me. I'm quite happy with that, but also what I'm not happy about is maybe I could have, hindsight's a great thing, and this is why I suppose wherever every day you come you learn from it. But Barston's a strange place, no signs of fish, no liners. Should I have attacked it at that 50 metre line, spotting some bait out and fishing a method over the top? I had nothing to lose really. I suppose I'm kicking myself for not doing it, but it was evident to see where the fish were in this particular area. They were well out, and I've caught all my fish well out, to the point where I've even had to take my clip off, and from 85 metres right up to 95, 96, 97 metres, work gradually in that area out, because that's where they were, and that's literally where I've had all my fish, apart from one fish at 55 metres. But you know what a great venue this is. I absolutely love coming here, because although it's been hard fishing, I've really had to think about how to get my next bite, and that's been so evident to see with the timings and coming off that long line and resting it and chucking back out and getting a bite. And I love that style of fishing, and this is why I enjoy these kind of waters, Worsborough, Barston, open water venues, where you really got to think about your fishing. So I hope I've given you some insight on how to approach these kind of venues, especially this time of the year, thinking about what you're doing. You've got time to think about your next cast and where you're going to get that next fish from. So until next time, tight lines.